Lots of red flags in this Angel Stadium land agreement. It's at best questionable in its legality, as we've seen with the Brown Act lawsuit, and at worst, a backroom deal designed to steal from our community. I saw the city's shiny social media push. Mr. Mike's amazing, by the way. But nonetheless, he was clearly tasked with presenting a shady, suspiciously hurried over the holidays agreement with Mr. Art Moreno and his anonymous group of investors as some ironically themed deal for the city. Emerson once said, "Your actions speak so loud I can't hear what you say." And as a perfect example, again, no offense to Mr. Mike, that effort inevitably fell almost as flat as a council member Brandman first mutilation text scandal apology, quote unquote. I'm of course referring to the fact that he's had to revise it a few times and still hasn't included breast cancer victims who remain horrified at having witnessed what he texted about ripping former Councilwoman Barnes' breasts off. I'm not holding my breath, just gathering recall signatures from school district employees, for example, who coincidentally felt compelled to mention he's been creating hostile work environments since before he was even elected to the council. I wish you well regardless, Mr. Brandman, but your support for this agreement, whether by vote, abstention, or even more time off to address your mental health issues, is unacceptable. As your constituents, we expected you to keep your word, be our voice, and vote against this pitifully obvious state mandate ignoring attempted robbery. And while a couple of your colleagues specifically have no issue putting their shameless political agendas and misogyny on regular display here, I still want to believe you really are on a quest for benevolence, like your colleagues, who I'm pleasantly surprised to say now seem to be on their quest for integrity by seeking transparency and accountability on this issue. So on that note, Councilmember Avellino, in gratitude for your sentiments last week and in the spirit of hope for your continued support on this issue, I've come to point out some of those red flags in this massive looming financial catastrophe for our city. 1, it's critical we have access to the unreleased original appraisal of the land, and because of the enormous discrepancy in value between the two appraisals, we want to see a third one that we can be sure is verifiably independent and unbiased. 2, the second appraisal, which was supposedly made available to the public, did not include the original scope of work. It was only a final addenda letter where, and I quote, "The reader should note that the land of the noted assessor's parcel, there's a discrepancy between 5%, end quote. The residents demand transparency. Not showing us the complete original scope of work or not explaining these discrepancies is completely unacceptable. 3, at the time of the agreement, the city had not yet even received a complete land survey or title report for the property. How can an appraisal even be considered complete or accurate without this information? 4, last but most certainly not least, I would have liked to see assurances that the property could continue to be used for essential city activities within reason once it's been sold, such as training for our dedicated law enforcement officers. Now, I brought copies of this for you and the other councilmen and the city attorney in hopes that it will help in this process. Thank you.
Can I ask